It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood, from coast to coast, and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Approximately 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese, which often results in low self-esteem and self-doubt. Today's guest, Richardson Whitely, didn't let the fact that she weighed more than 300 pounds keep her from reaching the top of the world. Cara climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in an attempt to speak to every person who has ever struggled with a negative self-image. Cara is a motivational speaker who has been featured on Oprah's Lifeclass. She is the author of the new book, Gorge, My Journey Up Kilimanjaro at 300 Pounds. Welcome, Cara. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Cara, anyone who has ever been overweight knows the damage that excess pounds can do to one's self-esteem. How did your weight impact your life? Did you always struggle with weight management?
I can remember the first time that I used food as a crutch, and that was when I was 9 years old, and I would sneak into the pantry and hide when my parents were on the verge of divorce and fighting, and I would look for snacks to eat, but it's a way of drowning out the noise that I didn't want to hear. So it started that early in life and progressed from other things. When I was 12 and I was molested on my birthday, and then it just kind of seeps into the everyday, the everything, and becomes this drowning kind of force, at least in my personal life, where I used food for everything, every high, every low, and everywhere in between.
What do you think that use of food, which led to your weight issues, what do you think that did to your self-esteem and self-confidence?
Well, gosh, growing up as a plus-size child wasn't easy. I faced bullies in my school. I couldn't wear the clothes that other kids were wearing, and so I really didn't feel like I fit in as a human being. But it was a real cycle, though, too. I mean, the more I ate, the worse I felt. The worse I felt, the more I ate. And so it was kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy that I was going to feel terrible about myself, and I was going to continue to make myself feel terrible about myself.
So when did you go through some changes in your life? I assume you probably experienced the yo-yo syndrome where you went up and down. And were you physically active at any point in your life?
Sure. I mean, I did some sports in school, but never was the all-star athlete that I had hoped to be. I was kind of more the bench warmer, but tried to be active. But the thing that really made a shift in how I looked at exercise was when I started becoming friends with my now husband. He was a marathoner, and he liked to run. And while I never was a runner, and I probably never will be a runner, I would walk. And so we would do races, like, for example, I would walk a 5K and he'd run a 10K, and we'd finish at about the same time. And so I had at one point lost 120 pounds because I was more active, I was eating better, and that's what led to my first Kilimanjaro climb. I've actually done it 3 times, and that climb was kind of like this yay me moment. I'm hiking, I'm on a better path, and I'm gonna hike Mount Kilimanjaro to raise money for AIDS orphans, and it was this big moment in my life of celebration. But like a lot of people who struggle with their weight, a year later I got pregnant and I gained half of it back. And you mentioned the self-esteem issue. I went from being on the top of the world to being the bottom of the barrel.
Right.
I could barely walk across the living room because I had sciatica from being pregnant, and it was devastating.
Cara, where did climbing a mountain come from? I mean, like you said, most people do things incrementally, like, walk a 5K or maybe hope to run one, but climb a mountain. Where did that come from?
It was an incremental thing for me. I mean, I started with flat trails and molehills led to mountains. In my first climb, I had actually also gone down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and back up again. But then it became this iconic thing in my life. Kilimanjaro was something that I did to raise money for Global Alliance for Africa's AIDS Orphans programs. And so it kind of kept coming up as an opportunity. And the second time that I did it, I took the mountain and myself for granted. I didn't train well, and of course that ended miserably. I thought that just being in the same place would really start me off and on the right path again. But I knew with this third climb, what I needed to do was really kind of get over my eating issues, to really face them head on, and to use the mountain almost as a moving meditation to kind of think through things and see what I needed to do to kind of love where I was and go from there.
When you first told people about this dream that you had, what you wanted to accomplish, were there naysayers that put you down? And the reason I ask that, because there are so many people out there that do have a dream, that do want to go for something, and they allow those external voices to stop them. So what did you have to overcome from other people in order for you to make this happen?
Gosh, there certainly were a lot, but I think the most glaring example of that was actually on Kilimanjaro itself when the porters were betting against me. They were thinking that I wasn't going to make it up the mountain. And as grand of an example as that is, it's kind of this extreme example, right? I'm on a mountain, I am eating well, I am hiking up to 15 hours a day, and yet people are still betting against me. When I was writing Gorge, I really saw that as something that people who are plus size face all the time, and it's something that it's a hurdle to just to get to the gym. There are so many things internally and externally that you either say about yourself or other people say about you that make it as a hindrance. So I've worked really hard to find a place where I can exercise, and for me it's a YMCA where I can feel confident in my own skin. And so I work on that on a daily basis.
Where do you think you found the motivation in order to move forward with this? I mean, there had to be a major shift that took place. From where do you think that came?
I think part of it is being a mom. That's one factor. That I have now 2 girls, but for this third climb, I only had 1 at the time. That I needed to kind of start making healthy changes, and even if I don't drop all the weight, that at least I'm moving forward. At least I'm finding strength in myself to take on big goals and to overcome this burden of weight in some way, shape, or form.
Now, you said in the beginning that you were using food as a source of comfort, and so many of us do that. How were you able to reframe that thought so that food was not your comfort? You shifted that to something else.
Yeah, I think that one of the most powerful things that I can do is to just be present and to allow a feeling to come in and go out. That's of course a Janine Roth way of dealing with things. She wrote When Food is Love, and I went to one of her workshops just recently. It was very powerful. But that's true. I mean, I need to feel things as they come through, emotions as they happen. My father died last week, and so I need to see each time that I don't reach for food to comfort that awful sadness that comes with grieving as a victory. Every time that I can get through a day where I'm not, plowing through a box of cookies is a victory. And I'm going to just have to call that a win, and move on, that I'm not using that just on a day-to-day basis. Some days food is one of those things that I have, it's not like being an alcoholic or a smoker. You can't quit cold turkey. So I have to really walk with this. I have to manage how I deal with food on a day-to-day, if not a moment-by-moment basis.
What tips would you offer to our listeners to get moving, to get off that chair and to make those changes that they've been promising themselves? What can they do?
Well, I think the most important thing to do is to love where you are and go from there. That's, I think our society has set up that we're only victorious when we're at that after picture.
Yeah.
I think that if you can start to shift it and see, like, you're already victorious just by getting up, and you're victorious by getting out the door and then, taking a walk. That's another victory. So each of these small steps will lead to a big, wonderful journey if you're willing to take those first few steps and see where it takes you.
What I love about your story is that you're teaching us not to wait. I mean, so many of us will, I'll climb that mountain when I lose the weight. I'll do this when this happens. I'll do that when that happens. And we put off living. And I think that your story is such a wonderful example of not waiting. Get out there and do it. And don't wait for something to happen to be happy.
Right. And certainly there was a lot of training involved. I did everything from walking a half marathon that was really hilly in Wheatsfield, Vermont. It's called the Mad Marathon. It's a fantastic event. But man, it's a haul. It would be a life list item in itself. I did a lot of yoga. I did a lot of strength work to support where my body was, knowing that, I wasn't going to be that 120-pound weight loss after picture when I hiked the mountain. I needed to kind of strengthen my body where I was and go from there. And that's, just start building out your journey. Take something that you really want to do and then just break it down into the small steps and start.
Well, like you said, yours is a grand example, climbing a mountain and all the things you had to do incrementally to get there. But the message is the same. Like you said, if someone just wants to start walking, take a few steps, start small and work your way up. It's the same lesson, just at different degrees. Kara, in our final moments, what would you like to leave our listeners with? What would be the most important thing that you want them to take away from what you've achieved?
Well, I wrote Gorge because I know that a lot of people are in my shoes. 2/3 of the United States is either overweight or obese, and I think that maybe we're just missing the mark in how we talk about weight issues. So I hope that people find in my story a better understanding of the human experience of compulsive overeating or struggling with weight, or if you see someone you just don't get, why don't they ever just get off the couch, that maybe they could see the story and they might get it a little bit better, and that hopefully that not only people who struggle with it might find a relatable story and some inspiration, but there might be a better understanding as to what's going on out there and why there's this disconnect between intention and action when it comes to weight issues.
The book is Gorge, My Journey Up Kilimanjaro at 300 Pounds by Kara Richardson Whitely. If you'd like more information about Kara or her work, you can visit her website, KaraRichardsonWhitely.com. That's Kara. KaraRichardsonWhitely.com. Kara, thank you so much for being here with us. I think this story has the potential to really impact so many lives, and I'm very happy that you were here with us today. Thank you.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.